Hey guys, this is Austin, and today I'm here with a gaming PC build for $1,000. So for this money, we're getting a very well-rounded computer that's of course easily capable of playing even the newest titles on full ultra settings, but we're also getting some nice additional stuff including an SSD. To demo the performance, we've got a few games starting with Battlefield 3. This is absolutely no problem for the PC as it's easily able to run it at ultra settings at 1080p. Crysis 3, which in my opinion is the best looking game out right now, is absolutely no problem as well, as we're able to play here on very high settings. With Bioshock Infinite, while it's not quite a computer crusher like Crysis 3, it is still a very nice looking game and it can be quite demanding. However, here we are able to run it on full ultra settings. Lastly, we have Metro Last Light. Apart from being a lot of fun, it's also a very demanding title even on high-end hardware. However, here we can play the game on very high settings. To kick the build off, we have the new Intel Core i5-4670K. Now, as one of the new Intel Haswell CPUs, this is among the best choices for gaming period, as it's got a quad-core design clocked at 3.4 GHz, and since it is a K-series part, that means that we can feel free to overclock it. So getting 4 GHz on the CPU should be absolutely no big deal, all for about $240. For a CPU cooler, we're using the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo. Now when you begin overclocking on your CPU, it really does pay to have an aftermarket heatsink as opposed to the stock cooler, as it really does allow you to get a lot more performance. So with the Hyper 212 Evo, you should be able to get 4 GHz on the CPU no problem, and on top of that, since it's only going to be $40, it's not going to break the bank. For a motherboard, we're going to be using the MSI Z87G43. Now this motherboard of course does support overclocking like I've been talking about for the last few minutes, thanks to the Z87 chipset. And that also does mean that it does have USB 3 support as well as SATA 3 support, so we're going to get our full speed out of that SSD. On top of that, you are going to be able to support up to 32 GB of memory, as well as it's going to be a nice robust board, all for about $120. For a graphics card, we're going to be using a 3 GB Sapphire Radeon 7950. Now when you consider price to performance, the 7950 is practically impossible to beat right now, as it delivers tons and tons of performance, as you guys saw earlier, enough to max out a lot of even brand new games. However, it comes in at a very reasonable price of well under $250. So thanks to that 3 GB of GDDR5 memory and that very powerful GPU core, this is going to be a great choice for this build, all for about $220. For memory, we're going to be using 8 GB of Corsair Vengeance DDR3 RAM. Now if you guys watch these videos often, you know that I really like to use this stuff in most of my builds, and that's for good reason. So for one, it's fairly quick, clocked at 1600 MHz, which in my opinion is still the sweet spot for gaming. And with 8 gigs of the stuff, it's going to be plenty of memory for all the gaming and multitasking and whatever else you want to be doing on your PC, and it's all going to come in at $70. For an SSD, we're going to be using a 120 GB Samsung 840 EVO drive. Now I am a huge fan of SSDs. In my opinion, they're one of the best upgrades you can do to a PC, and for a high-end build like this, we've got to include one, so that's where the 840 EVO comes in. So this is a new drive from Samsung that delivers absolutely awesome performance, so a solid-state drive is always going to be better than a hard drive, and even though it only does come with 120 gigs of storage, well, I'll show you guys in a minute how we're going to take care of that. However, for the SSD, it's going to run you about $110 and it's going to be worth every penny of it. For a hard drive, we're going to be using a 1TB Western Digital Caviar Black. Now while an SSD is great for installing Windows and programs and games and that sort of thing, the problem is they're just simply not going to be very big. So the best way to do it is to also have an additional hard drive such as the Caviar Black. So with 1TB of storage, there's going to be plenty of room for all the rest of your stuff, including pictures, music, video, and that sort of thing. You can even throw some games on there if you want, as it is a fairly fast 7200 RPM hard drive. Anyway, this is going to run you about $90. For the power supply, we're going to be using a 600 watt Corsair CX600. Now, a power supply is the literal heart of your build, so this is not a place where you want to cheap out at all. So I'm a big fan of these Corsair CX series power supplies, as they are very reliable, which of course is incredibly important, but they also do give you plenty of wattage for a fairly reasonable price. So 600 watts should be more than enough for this build as is, as well as some additional upgrades like hard drives, fans, LEDs, all that kind of stuff, and it's only going to run you about $70. For a case, we're going to be using the Corsair 200R. Now this is a mid-tower ATX case that is very easy to work in, so there's plenty of room to install the motherboard, CPU cooler, graphics card, all that kind of fun stuff. And it is going to give you good cooling performance thanks to the dual included 120mm fans, as well as the USB 3.0 support on the front panel. So all this for $60 is a great choice for this build. So there you go, an awesome $1,000 gaming PC build. Now of course prices are always changing, so I will have links to everything I mentioned in the description of this video, and I'll also add some additional links. So for example, if you want to do some upgrades like adding a DVD drive, Wi-Fi adapter, more powerful graphics card, that sort of thing, all of that will also be in the description of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed and you want to see more gaming PC videos like this, I do one every month, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you're always kept up to date on the latest and greatest. Anyway guys, I will catch you next time.